remember the early 2000s? It was the golden age of the slasher revival, all thanks to the massive success of Wes Craven's Scream. Every studio wanted a piece of that meta-horror pie, and Warner Brothers served up their offering in 2001 with the movie Valentine. On the surface, it had all the right ingredients: a holiday theme, a group of attractive young actors, and a mysterious killer with a gimmick. But somehow, the final product ended up feeling less like a gourmet meal and more like a stale heart-shaped box of chocolates you find at the back of the pantry a year later. Today, I'm going to dive deep into why Valentine is not just a product of its time, but one of the most frustratingly generic Scream clones ever made. So, let's start with the most basic element of any slasher movie: the characters you're supposed to be rooting for. Or in this case, the characters you actively start rooting against. Valentine presents us with a group of 5 friends: Kate, Paige, Dorothy, Lily, and Shelley. And let me tell you, with the exception of maybe Kate, this is one of the most unlikable ensembles in horror history. They are shallow, cruel, and self-absorbed to an almost cartoonish degree. The entire plot is kicked off because they, as middle schoolers, cruelly reject a nerdy kid named Jeremy Melton at a school dance. One of them even falsely accuses him of assault, getting him sent to juvenile hall. Fast forward 13 years, and they haven't grown or matured one bit. Paige is cynical and promiscuous, Dorothy is a gold digger, and Lily is just there. They treat each other terribly and have absolutely no redeeming qualities. It's hard to feel any sense of dread or suspense when you're secretly hoping the killer gets to them sooner rather than later. The characters. Valentine makes you wish the killer would hurry up. Now let's talk about our killer. Every great slasher needs an iconic mask. Michael Myers has the White Shatner mask, Ghostface has the Edvard Munch-inspired Scream, and Jason has his hockey mask. The killer in Valentine wears a Cupid mask, a cherubic, almost goofy-looking Cupid mask. I understand the thematic link. It's Valentine's Day, but it completely fails to be intimidating. It looks less like a symbol of terror and more like something you'd find in the seasonal aisle of a dollar store. When the killer appears, you don't feel a chill down your spine. You're more likely to stifle a laugh. The mask is meant to be creepy, but it just comes across as silly and cheap, undermining any potential for genuine scares. It's a perfect example of a concept that sounds better on paper than it looks on screen. The killer S-hole persona is built around this mask and a weird gimmick. His victims get a nosebleed right before he strikes. This is supposed to be a psychological calling card, a sign that Jeremy Melton is back for revenge. But it's executed so clumsily. It's not scary, it's just odd. Why a nosebleed? It feels like a desperate attempt to add a unique flair to the killer, but it ends up being a distracting and ineffective quirk that adds nothing to the tension. And what about the kills? In a slasher film, creative and memorable death scenes can elevate an otherwise mediocre movie. Friday the 13th is famous for its inventive kills. A Nightmare on Elm Street gave us surreal dream-based demises. Valentine gives us blandness. The kills are shockingly uninspired and forgettable. Someone gets shot with an arrow, someone gets an axe, someone gets stabbed. There's a hot tub scene that feels like a weak attempt to create an iconic moment, but it falls flat. For a movie released in the post-Scream era, where self-awareness and creativity were key, the lack of imagination in the death scenes is a huge letdown. The film seems to be going through a slasher checklist without adding any personality or flair. The violence is tame, the setups are predictable, and the payoffs are completely underwhelming. It feels like the filmmakers were afraid to take any risks, resulting in a series of deaths that are neither scary nor particularly entertaining to watch. Perhaps the most tragic aspect of Valentine is the sheer amount of wasted talent involved. You have Denise Richards, fresh off her Bond girl role. You have David Boreanaz, who was at the peak of his fame as Angel. You have Marley Shelton, Jessica Capshaw, and a young Katherine Heigl. This is a cast with real screen presence and charisma, but they are given absolutely nothing to work with. Their characters are one-dimensional archetypes: the sassy one, the nice one, the rich one. David Boreanaz, in particular, is criminally underused. He plays a recovering alcoholic love interest who is so obviously a red herring that it's not even fun to suspect him. You see these talented actors trying their best to inject some life into their paper-thin roles, but the script gives them no room to shine. It's a classic case of a movie coasting on the star power of its cast rather than giving them a compelling story to tell. You're left wondering what a much better movie this could have been if the script had been as strong as its casting sheet. Finally, I'll have to talk about the twist. A good whodunit slasher lives and dies by its reveal. Scream had a brilliant game-changing twist. The Usual Suspects had a legendary one. Valentine has one of the most predictable, signposted twists in the genre. The film tries so hard to make you suspect every male character, especially Adam, played by David Boreanaz. But it's all smoke and mirrors. The real killer is revealed to be Dorothy's new boyfriend, an art gallery owner also named Adam. Why? Because he's actually Jeremy Melton, the nerdy kid they bullied, who got plastic surgery to become a handsome, successful adult. Are you shocked? No, of course not. The movie basically screams it at you from the moment he's introduced. It's the most obvious choice, which makes the final reveal completely devoid of impact. It's a twist you can see coming from a mile away, and when it finally happens, your only reaction is a sigh of, "Yep, knew it." It's the final nail in the coffin for a movie that already struggled with unlikable characters, a silly killer, and boring kills. So, is Valentine a completely worthless movie? Not exactly. It's a fascinating time capsule of a very specific era in horror. It's a perfect example of what happens when a studio tries to replicate a successful formula without understanding what made the original so special. Scream worked because it had sharp writing, genuinely likable characters, and a smart, self-aware deconstruction of the genre. Valentine simply copies the surface-level elements, the masked killer, the whodunit plot, the cast of TV stars, and hopes for the best. The result is a hollow, uninspired slasher that has been largely and rightfully forgotten. It's a Valentine's Day card with a generic poem inside. You appreciate the gesture, but it's going in the trash by the end of the week. What do you think? Am I being too harsh on Valentine, or do you agree that it's a prime example of a failed Scream clone? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into early 2000s horror, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.